Stop waiting for the perfect moment. That moment you keep imagining, the one where everything feels right, where you're fully prepared, fully confident, fully supported. That moment is a myth. It doesn't exist. It never has. It never will. The truth is, the perfect time is just fear wearing a comfortable disguise. It whispers, start next week. It says, when you have more money, it promises, when you feel ready. But ready is not a feeling. Ready is a decision. And while you're waiting for conditions to align, someone else is moving with imperfect conditions, imperfect skills, imperfect confidence, and they're winning. The difference between where you are and where you want to be isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's action. And raw, immediate, uncomfortable action. You don't need the stars to align. You need to get up. You don't need more motivation. You need movement, because clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. Confidence doesn't come before you start. It grows after you start. It grows after you start. The path doesn't appear while you sit still. It reveals itself as you walk. Every successful person you admire began before they felt ready. They started with doubt in their chest and uncertainty in their mind. They didn't wait for perfect weather. They moved in the storm, and that is what separates dreamers from doers. Dreamers wait, doers work. The world does not reward intention. It rewards execution. You tell yourself you'll begin when you have more time, but time is not found, it is made. You say you'll start when you feel motivated, but motivation is unreliable. It fades, it fluctuates, it disappears the moment things get hard. If you build your future on motivation, you're building on sand. If you build your future on motivation, you're building on sand. The people who rise early, who train when they're tired, who study when they're tired, who study when they're bored, who push forward when progress feels invisible. They are not superhuman. They simply refuse to negotiate with excuses. And excuses are seductive. They sound logical. They feel safe. It's too late. It's too early. I'm too young. I'm too old. I need more experience. I need more support. But listen carefully. Those thoughts are not protecting you. They are imprisoning you. They are imprisoning you. Every day you delay is a day your dream gets weaker. Every hour you hesitate is an hour you could have been improving. You don't need a new year. You don't need Monday. You don't need Monday. You don't need Monday. You don't need a sign. This is the sign. Right now is the youngest you will ever be again. Right now is the most energy you will ever have compared to your future self. Right now is your advantage. And if you waste it waiting for comfort, you will wake up one day facing the one thing worse than failure. Regret. Regret is heavy. It stays. It echoes in your mind at night. It reminds you of what you could have been if you had just started. And the pain of discipline, that pain is temporary. It burns, but it builds you. It stretches you. It transforms you. The pain of regret, that pain lasts a lifetime. So stop rehearsing your fears and start rehearsing your effort. Stop overthinking and start executing. The first step does not need to be perfect. It needs to be taken. Understand this deeply. Momentum is more powerful than motivation. Once you move, energy follows. Once you begin, resistance weakens. The hardest part of any journey is the first push, the first workout, the first page, the first call, the first risk, the first call, the first risk. But after that first step, something shifts inside you. You realize you're capable. You realize you're capable. You realize the fear was louder than the reality. You realize that progress feels better than procrastination ever did, and that realization becomes fuel. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You just need the courage to lift your foot. Stop waiting for confidence. Build it. Stop waiting for permission. Grant it to yourself. Stop waiting for permission. Grant it to yourself. Stop waiting for circumstances to change. Change your response to them. You have ideas inside you that the world needs. You have strength inside you that pressure will reveal. You have potential inside you that comfort is suffocating. The longer you wait, the heavier it becomes. But the moment you wait, the heavier it becomes. But the moment you act, you break the cycle. You shift from passive to powerful. You move from wishing to working. And that is where transformation begins. Not in comfort, not in perfection, not in someday, but in the decision to rise despite doubt. So if you've been waiting, stop. If you've been hesitating, move. If you've been hesitating, move. If you've been doubting, act anyway. The perfect moment is not coming. This is it. Get up and work. Let's talk about something most people don't want to hear, but absolutely need to understand. You will not always feel like doing the work. There will be mornings when your alarm rings and your body feels heavy. There will be evenings when your goals feel distant and your energy feels drained. There will be days when motivation is nowhere to be found, and in those moments, your future will be decided. Not when you feel inspired, not when everything is flowing perfectly, but when you are tired, distracted, bored, or discouraged. Because feelings are unstable. They rise and fall like waves. If you build your success on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. One good day followed by 2 lazy ones, one productive week followed by a month of excuses. One productive week followed by a month of excuses. That's the cycle most people live in. They chase motivation like it's fuel, but motivation is only a spark. Discipline is the engine. Discipline is what carries you forward when the spark fades. It's waking up and doing it anyway. It's training when you're sore. It's studying when you're frustrated. It's showing up when nobody is watching and nobody is applauding. The champions you admire are not constantly motivated. They are consistently disciplined. They don't negotiate with their emotions. They don't ask themselves, do I feel like it? They tell themselves, they must be done. And then they do it. Feelings will lie to you. They will tell you that rest is more important than effort, even when you've rested enough. They will tell you that comfort is safer than growth. They will tell you that skipping one day doesn't matter, but discipline understands something. Feelings don't. Every action compounds. Every small decision shapes identity. When you act based on emotion, you reinforce weakness. When you act based on discipline, you build strength, and strength is built in the moments you want to quit. But refuse to. Think about it. Anyone can work hard when they feel good. Anyone can push forward when they're excited. Anyone can stay committed when results are visible. But what about when progress is invisible? What about when no one notices? What about when you're putting in effort and nothing seems to change? That is where discipline separates the average from the unstoppable. Discipline, he says, results are not my responsibility today. Effort is. Discipline says, I don't control outcomes. I control actions. Discipline says, I will keep showing up until success has no choice but to notice me. And the beautiful thing about discipline is this: it creates freedom. At first, it feels restrictive. It feels strict. It feels demanding. But over time, it builds confidence. It builds demanding. But over time, it builds self-respect. It builds momentum. When you keep promises to yourself, your self-trust grows. And once you trust yourself, doubt loses its power. You start to realize that you don't need motivation because you have standards. You don't need hype because you have habits. You don't need to feel powerful because you have habits. You don't need to feel powerful because your actions prove that you are. The truth is, your feelings don't determine your future. Your habits do. And habits are built through discipline. Not once, not twice, but daily, repeatedly, relentlessly. The person who succeeds is not the one who's Saya. The person who succeeds is not the one who is the most talented. It's the one who refuses to break their routine. The one who keeps going when it's boring. The one who understands that greatness is not glamorous. It's repetitive. It's structured. It's sometimes monotonous. But within that repetition lies transformation. Every time you choose discipline over emotion, you strengthen your character. Every time you choose work over comfort, you harden your mindset. Every time you show up despite resistance, you prove to yourself despite resistance. You prove to yourself that you are in control. And control is power. Imagine becoming the kind of person who does what needs to be done regardless of mood. Imagine becoming so disciplined that excuses no longer appeal to you. Imagine reaching a point where your feelings no longer dictate your direction. That is real power. That is mental toughness. That is how empires are built. It's how bodies are transformed, how dreams are achieved. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your discipline. So build discipline so strong that even on your worst days, you still move forward. Because in the end, it's not about how you feel. It's about what you do. Choose discipline. Do the work anyway. Time is the one thing you can never negotiate with. Never pause, never rewind, and never earn back. Every single person on this planet wakes up with the same 24 hours, not one more. not one less. The difference between those who build extraordinary lives and those who stay stuck is not that they were given more time. It's that they respected it differently. They understood that time is not just minutes and hours passing on a clock. It is life itself moving forward. Every second you span is a second of your existence gone forever. Let that sink in. When you waste time, you are not just wasting a day. You are not just wasting a day. You are spending a piece of your life on something that gives you no return. And the scary part is, time doesn't warn you when it's about to run out. It doesn't send reminders saying, this is your last chance. It just keeps moving, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. The future you dream about is being built right now in how you spend this hour. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, if you scroll instead of study, that decision compounds. If you sleep in instead of train, that decision compounds. If you delay instead of act, that decision compounds. If you delay instead of act, that decision compounds. And over weeks, months, and years, those small daily choices become a life you either feel proud of or deeply regret. Time is your most valuable asset because it is the only asset you can't increase. You can make more money. You can gain more knowledge. You can rebuild your health. Boo. Once a day passes, it is gone permanently. That is why average thinking says, I'll do it later. While successful thinking asks, what is the highest value use of this hour? Look around at people who achieve greatness in any field, whether in business, sports, science, or art. They didn't discover a secret 25th hour. They mastered focus within the 24 they had. They protected their time like it was treasure, because it is. They understood that distractions are expensive. Every distractions are expensive. Every distraction costs you progress. Every unnecessary delay costs you momentum. And momentum, once lost, is hard to regain. You must start seeing time differently. Stop measuring it by how fast it passes and start measuring it by how fast it passes and start measuring it by how intentionally you use it. Ask yourself daily, did I invest my time today or did I spend it carelessly? Because there is a difference. Investing time means using it in ways that bring growth, learning, training, building, improving. Spending time carelessly means letting it slip through comfort, procrastination, and mindless habits. Comfort feels harmless in the moment, but over time, it becomes a silent thief. It steals potential. It steals opportunity. It steals the version of you that could have existed if you had simply used your hours better. And here's the harsh truth. Someone else is using their time wisely right now. While you hesitate, they are preparing. While you delay, they are building. The gap between you and the life you want is often just how you use your mornings and evenings. Protect your mornings because they set the tone. Protect your evenings because they set the tone. Protect your evenings because they prepare tomorrow. Protect your focus because scattered energy produces scattered results. You don't need more time. You need better priorities. You need better priorities. When you treat time as sacred, your actions change. You become sharper. You become more intentional. You begin to understand that saying yes to distractions is saying no to your future. The most dangerous lie you can believe is I have plenty of time. That belief makes you slow. It makes you casual. It makes you careless. But none of us truly knows how much time we have. Life is unpredictable. Opportunities don't wait forever. Windows close. Energy declines. Responsibilities increase. The older you get, the more you realize how quickly years disappear. The dreams you once said you would chase someday, suddenly feel distant because someday turned into later and later turned into never. Don't let that be your story. Use your time like it matters, because it does. Create urgency in your life, not panic, but purpose. Move with intention. Speak with intention. Work with intention. When you sit down to build your future, eliminate distractions completely. When you commit to a goal, give it your full attention, because divided focus creates delayed results. And delayed results test your patience. But when you focus deeply and consistently, progress accelerates. But when you focus deeply and consistently, respecting time doesn't mean rushing blindly. It means valuing every moment enough to align it with your purpose. Imagine what would happen if you treated every hour as a building block for your legacy. Imagine how much further you would be in 1 year if you stopped wasting even 2 hours a day. 2 hours a day is 14 hours a week, 56 hours a month, over 600 hours a year. That is the difference between average and exceptional. That is the difference between wishing and winning. You cannot control how fast time moves, but you can control how fast time moves. But you can control how deeply you use it. And when you begin to respect time begins to reward you. So stop postponing your greatness. Stop acting like tomorrow is guaranteed. This hour matters, this day matters, this moment matters. Use it before it uses you. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. That's because we are obsessed with big moves. We want dramatic transformations, overnight success, instant results. We want the giant leap, the breakthrough moment, the explosive change that proves we've made it. But real growth rarely looks like that. Real growth is quiet. It is repetitive. It is built in small, almost invisible steps, taken consistently over time. The problem is, small steps don't feel impressive. They don't look exciting. Posting one video doesn't make you famous. One workout doesn't transform your body. One study session doesn't make you a master. And because the result isn't immediate, people quit. They mistake slow progress for no progress. They think if it's not dramatic, it's not working. But that mindset is what keeps them stuck. Success is not created in one massive action. It is built through daily effort stacked relentlessly. Think about how a building is constructed. Brick by brick, not all at once. If you focus only on the finished skyscraper, the process feels overwhelming. But if you focus on placing one brick perfectly today and another tomorrow, eventually you look up and realize you built something extraordinary. The key is not intensity for a short burst. The key is consistency over the long haul. Anyone can go hard for a week. You can stay steady for a year, and the steady ones win. Small steps are powerful because they build momentum. Momentum is what carries you when motivation fades and when discipline feels heavy. When you show up daily, even in a small way, you reinforce your identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You are no longer someone who talks about goals. You are someone who works on them, even if it's just 30 minutes a day. Even if it's just a single page written, a single mile run, a single new skill practiced. Those small actions compound. And compounding is the secret most people ignore. 1% improvement every day may seem insignificant, but over time, that 1% becomes transformation. The body changes, the mind sharpens, the skills improve, the confidence grows, and it happens gradually, almost silently, until one day people call you talented or lucky, not realizing they're looking at the result of hundreds of small, disciplined actions repeated consistently. The beauty of small steps is that they remove overwhelm. When you focus only on today's task, the mountain becomes manageable. You don't have to conquer the entire journey today. You just have to win the day. And winning the day means doing what you said you would do, even in the smallest measure. It means honoring your commitments in simple ways. It means refusing to let a bad day turn into a bad week. Because here's another truth. Missing one day is a mistake. Missing two becomes a pattern. That's why consistency matters more than perfection. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be persistent. Understand this deeply. Massive results are simply the outcome of tiny efforts repeated without quitting. Every expert was once a beginner who showed up daily. Every expert was once a beginner who showed up daily. Every strong body started with a weak one that kept training. Every successful business began with one uncertain step forward. The world celebrates the finished product, but rarely sees the quiet grind behind it. And that grind is built on small, unglamorous. Yushin's done when nobody is watching. You may not see immediate changes. You may not get instant validation, but growth is happening beneath the surface. Just like a seed planted in soil, you don't see progress for weeks, but roots are forming. Strength is developing underground before anything breaks through. If you dig it up every day to check for growth, you destroy it. In the same way, if you keep doubting your progress because results aren't instant, you sabotage your momentum. Trust the process. Respect the repetition. Fall in love with the routine. The compound effect is undefeated. Small steps taken daily will outrun giant steps taken occasionally every single time. So stop waiting for a surge of energy to do something extreme. Instead, commit to something sustainable, something repeatable, something you can do even on your worst days. Because the person who improves slightly every day will eventually surpass the person who waits for the perfect moment to go all in. And when you look back A year from now, you won't remember the single dramatic moment that changed everything. You will realize it was the daily discipline, the tiny efforts, the quiet persistence that built your success. Take the step today, then take it again tomorrow and the next day. Keep stacking them until your small steps become undeniable results. Excuses are comfortable. They feel safe. They protect your ego and give you a reason to stay exactly where you are. And that's why they're so dangerous. An excuse doesn't shout. It whispers. It sounds reasonable. It says, you're tired today. It says, you're tired today. It says, you've had a long week. It says, you can start tomorrow. And because it sounds logical, you accept it. But every excuse you accept becomes a vote for the weaker version of yourself. Every time you justify in action, you strengthen the habit of quitting. And the more you practice quitting, the easier it becomes. That's how potential dies. Not in one dramatic failure, but in small surrendered moments. The truth is, your mind will always try to choose comfort over growth. It is wired for survival, not success. Growth feels uncomfortable. It feels risky. It feels risky. It feels uncertain. So your brain offers you a shortcut. Avoid the discomfort. Stay where it's safe. And if you're safe and if you're not careful, you will start believing that voice. You'll convince yourself that circumstances are the problem. That you don't have enough time. That you don't have enough time. That you don't have enough money. That you don't have enough support. But there are people with less time, less money, and less support who are still finding a way. The difference is not resources. It's mindset. It's the refusal to let excuses control their direction. When something goes wrong, they don't ask, why me? They ask, what now? They don't ask, why me? They ask, what now? They don't say, I can't. They say, how can I? That small shift in language is a massive shift in power. Because the moment you ask, how can I? Your brain starts searching for solutions instead of escape routes. Excuses thrive in untrained minds. If you don't consciously challenge them, they grow stronger. They become your default response. That's why you must train your mind the same way you train your body, through repetition and resistance. When the thought says, it's too hard, respond with, hard is how I grow. When the thought says, you're not ready, respond with, I become ready by starting. When the thought says, you might fail, respond with, failure teaches me. You must become aware of the inner dialogue that shapes your actions. Most people don't lose because they lack ability. They lose because they lack ability. They lose because they lose T. Mental battle before they even begin. They talk themselves out of opportunity. They magnify obstacles and minimize their own strength. But here's what you need to understand. Every challenge has two parts, the external problem and your internal response. You cannot always control the external problem, but you always control your response. And your response determines your outcome. There will always be reasons to quit. There will always be unexpected setbacks. There will always be moments when the easier path looks tempting. But if you build the habit of pushing back against excuses, you build resilience. You build grit. You build mental toughness. And mental toughness is what carries you through storms. It's what keeps you moving when progress is slow. It's what keeps you disciplined when motivation disappears. It's what separates people who talk about change from those who actually create it. The world does not owe you perfect conditions. It owes you nothing. If you want a different life, you must think differently, speak differently, and act differently. And it begins with eliminating the language of limitation from your mind. Imagine what would happen if you stopped allowing excuses to finish your sentences. Instead of, I can't because, you say, I will despite. Instead of, it's not the right time, you say, I'll make it the right time. You say, I'll make it the right time. Instead of, I don't know how, you say, I'll learn how. That shift alone can change everything. Because once you take ownership, you take control. Ownership is powerful. It removes blame. It removes victimhood. It removes victimhood. It forces growth. When you stop blaming your past, your environment, or other people, you reclaim your power. And with power comes responsibility. It means you can no longer hide behind circumstances. It means your success or failure depends on your effort. That can feel heavy, but it is also freeing. Because if it depends on you, then it can change through you. You don't need a different background. You don't need a different starting point. You need a stronger mindset. You need to become the kind of person who refuses to let excuses decide your future. Every time you silence an excuse and take action anyway, you grow stronger. Every time you push forward, despite doubt, you expand your limits. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes normal. What once felt intimidating becomes manageable. And what once felt overwhelming becomes routine. That is the power of training your mind. You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are the commander of them. So command them wisely, replace excuses with solutions, replace doubt with effort, replace fear with movement. Because the only thing standing between you and your next level is the story you keep telling yourself. Change the story, change the outcome. Stop making excuses and start making progress. One of the fastest ways to lose focus, lose confidence, and lose momentum is to constantly compare yourself to other people. In a world where everyone's highlights are on display, it's easy to feel like you're behind. You scroll through social media and see someone your age earning more, traveling more, achieving more. You hear about someone who started later than you, but seems to be moving faster. And without realizing it, you begin measuring your worth against their timeline. That comparison slowly drains your energy. It shifts your attention away from your own growth and places it on someone else's journey. But here's the truth. You were never meant to compete with the world. You were meant to compete with the person you were yesterday. Your only real competition is your previous self. Because someone else's pace has nothing to do with your potential. Someone else's chapter 10 has nothing to do with your chapter 2. Everyone has different starting points, different resources, different struggles, different strengths. When you compare yourself to others, you compare your behind the scenes to their highlight reel. And that is never a fair comparison. Instead of asking, why am I not as far as them? Ask, am I better than I was last month? Instead of chasing their success, chase your own improvement. Because progress is personal. Growth is individual, and fulfillment comes from becoming more than you were, not more than someone else. When you compete with yourself, the pressure changes. It becomes constructive instead of destructive. You're no longer trying to impress people. You're trying to improve yourself. You measure success by discipline kept, habits strengthened, skills developed. You focus on your own lane. And when you focus on your lane, you move faster. Comparison creates distraction. It pulls your eyes off your path and makes you stumble. But self-competition sharpens your focus. It forces you to analyze your weaknesses honestly. It pushes you to ask hard questions. Did I give my best effort today? Did I improve even slightly? Did I learn something new? Did I stay disciplined? Those questions build character. Because when you make self-improvement your standard, excuses become harder to accept. You begin raising your own bar. Yesterday you ran 1 mile. Today you run 1.5. Yesterday you studied for 30 minutes. Today you study for 45. Yesterday you hesitated. Today you act faster. These small improvements compound. And over time they create a version of you that would shock your past self. That's the real victory. Not outperforming someone else, but outperforming who you used to be. And the beautiful thing about competing with yourself is that it builds confidence that no one can take away. When your progress is measured internally, it doesn't depend on external validation. You don't need applause. You don't need approval. You don't need approval. You don't need comparison. Your growth becomes your motivation. Your consistency becomes your pride. Think about how powerful it is to wake up knowing that your only mission today is to be slightly better than yesterday. That goal is always within reach. It doesn't depend on other people failing. It doesn't depend on circumstances changing. It depends on you showing up. And when you show up daily with that mindset, transformation becomes inevitable. Some days the improvement will be big. Other days it will be small. But as long as it's forward, it counts. Stop wasting energy trying to outrun someone else's journey. Use that energy to build your own. Stop measuring your life against timelines that were never designed for you. Create your own timeline that were never designed for you. Create your own timeline. Set your own standards. Define your own success. When you compete with others, there will always be someone ahead of you. But when you compete with yourself, the only direction is forward. You become obsessed with growth. You celebrate discipline. You analyze mistakes without shame because they are lessons, success, not losses. And over months and years, that mindset builds an unstoppable individual. One who is calm under pressure. One who is focused despite noise. One who is calm under pressure. one who is confident without arrogance, because they know their power doesn't come from beating others, it comes from mastering themselves. So the next time you feel the urge to compare, pause. Look back at where you started. Remember the struggles you've already overcome. Recognize the growth you've already achieved. Then ask yourself the only question that truly matters: am I improving? If the answer is yes, keep going. If the answer is no, adjust and move. But never let someone else's progress define your worth. Your journey is yours alone. Compete with the person in the mirror. Beat who you were yesterday. And keep raising the standard until your past self wouldn't recognize the strength you've built. Most people want growth, but they don't want the discomfort that comes with it. They want success, but they don't want the struggle. They want success, but they don't want the pressure that builds it. And that's where the misunderstanding lies. Growth and discomfort are not separate experiences. They are the same path. Every level up in your life will demand a version of you that is stronger than the one you are today. And strength is not built in comfort. It is built in resistance. Think about how muscles grow. They are placed under stress. They are stretched, challenged, even torn at a microscopic level. And in the recovery, they rebuild stronger. Your mind works the same way. Your character works the same way. When life applies pressure, it is not always there to break you. Often, it is there to build you. But only if you choose to see it that way. The problem is, when struggle shows up, most people interpret it as a sign to stop. They think difficulty means they are on the wrong path. They think pain means failure. But what if pain is proof that you are stretching beyond your limits? What if struggle is evidence that you are growing? The moments that test you are the moments that transform you. The nights when you feel exhausted but continue anyway. The mornings when doubt creeps in but you act despite it. The days when results seem invisible but you remain consistent. That is where resilience is forged. That is where identity shifts. That is where identity shifts. That is where ordinary turns into extraordinary. Struggle has a way of revealing who you truly are. When everything is easy, anyone can appear confident. Anyone can seem strong when circumstances are favorable. But when the pressure increases, when obstacles multiply, when things don't go as planned, your true mindset is exposed. Do you retreat or do you rise? Do you complain or do you adapt? Do you blame or do you adapt? Do you blame or do you build? These questions define your future, because every challenge carries a choice. You can let it shrink you, or you can let it sharpen you. And the difference lies in your perspective. If you see obstacles as unfair punishments, you will resist them. If you see them as training grounds, you will resist them. If you see them as training grounds, you will embrace them. The path to any meaningful goal is paved with setbacks. You will fail. You will be criticized. You will doubt yourself. You will feel moments of frustration so intense that quitting feels logical. But understand this. Quitting guarantees nothing changes. Pushing through guarantees growth. Even if you don't win immediately, you evolve. And evolution is powerful. Every hardship builds endurance. Every setback builds wisdom. Every setback builds wisdom. Every disappointment builds emotional control. Over time, the very struggles you once feared become the rare. Sons, you are unshakable. You begin to realize that pain is temporary, but strength is permanent. But strength is permanent. You start to welcome challenges because you know they carry opportunity. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift alone transforms suffering into strategy. Embracing struggle doesn't mean you enjoy pain. It means you understand its purpose. It means you recognize that comfort is a slow trap. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it weakens your edge. It dulls your ambition. It keeps you average. Pressure, on the other hand, sharpens you. It forces focus. It demands discipline. It strips away excuses. It demands discipline. It strips away excuses. When life gets hard, it simplifies your priorities. You stop wasting time on trivial distractions. You become intentional. You become resilient and resilient and resilient. And resilience is one of the most valuable traits you can develop, because life will not always cooperate with your plans. There will be unexpected losses, delays, rejections, and failures. But if you train yourself to face difficulty head on, you become unstoppable. Not because you avoid pain, but because you endure it. Not because you are fearless, but because you will move forward despite fear. That is courage. That is strength. That is growth. One day, you will look back at the hardest seasons of your life and realize they built the strongest version of you. The setbacks taught you patience, the pressure built your discipline, the pain deepened your character, and the struggle carved out resilience you didn't know you had. So don't run from difficulty. Don't resent the grind. Don't curse the challenge. Step into it, learn from it, grow through it, because the harder the battle, the stronger the warrior it creates. Embrace the struggle and let it forge you into someone unbreakable. At the end of the day, this is bigger than money, bigger than status, bigger than applause. This is about the life you build and the legacy you leave behind. Legacy isn't just what people say about you when you're gone. It's the impact you create while you're here. It's the example you set. It's the standard you live by. Every decision you make, every habit you repeat, every action you take is shaping that legacy in real time. The way you show up when things are hard, the way you stay disciplined when nobody is watching, the way you stay disciplined when nobody is watching, the way you choose growth over comfort, that becomes your story. And whether you realize it or not, someone is always watching. Your family, your friends, the people who look up to you quietly, they see your effort. They see your excuses. They see your consistency. You're teaching them what is acceptable through your actions. When you get up and work despite challenges, you send a message that perseverance is normal. When you stay committed to your goals, you prove that dreams require discipline. When you refuse to quit, you give others permission to fight for their own potential. That is legacy. It's not built in a single grand moment. It's built in daily decisions that align with your highest standards. And the question you must ask yourself is simple. What kind of example am I creating right now? Hard work is not glamorous. It is repetitive. It is demanding. It is often unnoticed, but it is the foundation of everything meaningful. Dreams without action remain fantasies. Vision without effort remains illusion. You can talk about the life you want for years, but until you put in the work, nothing changes. And the work is not always exciting. It's waking up early when you would rather sleep. It's studying when your friends are relaxing. It's practicing when your friends are relaxing. It's practicing when nobody is cheering. It's choosing long-term success over short-term comfort. That's where character is built. That's where identity is built. That's where identity is formed. When you commit to hard work consistently, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants success and start seeing yourself as someone who earns it. And earning it changes everything. It builds self-respect. It builds pride. It builds confidence that doesn't depend on external validation. Because you know the hours you put in, you know the sacrifices you made, you know the sacrifices you made, you know the discipline you maintain. That inner certainty is powerful. And over time, that power compounds into results that speak for themselves. But more importantly, it shapes who you become. Success achieved without growth feels empty. But success earned through discipline feels meaningful. It transforms you from the inside out. And that transforms you from the inside out. And that transformation is what lasts. Money can disappear. Titles can fade. Applause can quiet down. But the character you build through hard work stays with you forever. Imagine looking back on your life years from now. Imagine asking yourself whether you truly gave your best effort. Whether you maximized your potential, whether you chased your goals with courage, or allowed fear to shrink them. That future reflection should guide your present decisions, because regret is heavy. It lingers, it whispers about chances not taken and effort not given. But fulfillment is powerful. Fulfillment comes from knowing you showed up fully, that you didn't waste your talent, that you didn't hide from your calling. Building a legacy requires urgency, not panic, but purpose. It requires urgency, not panic, but purpose. It requires understanding that time is limited and potential is fragile. You don't have forever to become who you are meant to be. You have today. You have this moment. And this moment is enough to begin. The work you put in now shapes the opportunities you receive later. The discipline you practice now determines the doors that open in the future. Every hour invested in growth becomes part of the foundation you stand on tomorrow. And when challenges come, as they always do, your work ethic becomes your anchor. Your consistency becomes your shield. Your resilience becomes your advantage. Legacy is not about being remembered by millions. It's about becoming someone you are proud of. Someone who refused to settle. Someone who chose effort over excuses. Someone who turned dreams into reality through relentless action. And that version of you is built one disciplined day at a time. So stop underestimating the power of your effort. Stop postponing your greatness. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Decide that your life will stand for something. Decide that your actions will reflect your ambition. Decide that your actions will reflect your ambition. Decide that your legacy will be built through sweat, sacrifice, and consistency. Because in the end, the only thing that truly matters is whether you have the courage to get up and work. In the end, all the plans, dreams, and intentions in the world mean nothing without action. Success, growth, and transformation are not given. They are earned through relentless effort, discipline, and the courage to push forward when it's hardest. Every moment you choose to rise, to work, and to improve shapes the life you will live and the legacy you will leave behind. Stop waiting. Stop making excuses. The time to act is now. Get up, work, and become the person you were meant to be.